Did that big shift really hold, or were there like parts of the old mannerisms that would kind of try to come back gradually?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's often with all of our work that we do is it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? So in that moment, I was 2 steps forward, if not 10 steps forward. And then, yeah, of course, I did slide back a little bit. The patients would come up and things would come up. And
yeah,
but to this day, like I get stuck in rush hour traffic. I'm calm as a cucumber. I don't care. I'm fine. I'm totally at peace. Where before it was like, let me weave over here, let me squeeze over here. I'm changing this lane, and now I just ride in the one lane I'm in, and like I'll be there when I get there.
We are hanging out with Travis from the Great Spirit Farm. Recently had Shannon on. Originally met both of them at a cannabis event, if you haven't seen the other one, and got to learn about what they're doing over there at the Great Spirit Farm. So obviously check out that other podcast if you're just here hanging out. But we'll just kind of dive in. Dude, Travis, thanks so much for hanging out today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Hell yeah, dude. So you said that you got a chance to listen to the other podcast before we started rolling here today. So you kind of have an idea what we talked about before, which is cool. That'll be helpful, right?
Yeah.
I think a good place that I'd like to start out with is where was your and you know, for anybody that's just listening, there's a lot of stuff they do at the retreats, which we can talk about. They have you can go there, set an appointment, and have an ayahuasca retreat like you might be aware of, but they also offer an Aya drink as well. And I'm going to learn more about how to say that and all that stuff, you know, which is not DMT. It has a lot of healing properties, really good stuff. Won't make you like see stuff or whatever. But I'm curious for you, what was your first experience with ayahuasca? Like, when did that happen, and why did it happen? How did it come to be? And what was your, experience with it?
Yeah. So I've always been a huge psychedelic fan. So back in high school, I did a lot of LSD, some mushrooms, but LSD was my thing. And fast forward to being an adult, I heard about ayahuasca, watched some videos. My wife Shannon, she had some friends that had done it and talked about it, and was like, oh, that was really interesting. This is a psychedelic I haven't done before. So for me, the whole draw for me was the experience of psychedelic that I hadn't done yet. And that was where I was at in that moment in time. I was like, okay, well, this is something I haven't tried before. What's this all about?
Yeah. You're already kind of familiar with the territory of like going in that realm. It was just something, a new one.
Yeah, just a different realm. And I was like, oh, okay, I can handle that. I've handled this and that, and this is gonna be no big deal. And like I was very humbled.
Yeah, so, what you were expecting.
Yeah, no. So it was probably about 3 years since we heard about it, and before we actually got to our first experience. So we'd heard about it, we're interested, watched a bunch of documentaries, videos, kind of just let it sit on the back burner. And then there was this week that I was like, you know what? I just found out that I can order these plants. They're completely legal. I'm going to buy them online, and I'm going to make this stuff myself, and we're going to have an experience. And so I went online, found the ayahuasca vine, found the chacruna plant, which are the 2 main plants that they use, and was super excited. And something told me, just sleep on it. Let's sleep on it versus just making this rash purchase all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Went to bed, woke up the next day, and Shannon got a phone call like first thing in the morning of a friend that's like, hey, I don't know if you're interested in this, but I'm going to be going to an ayahuasca ceremony at the end of the week. Are you interested? And I was like, what? Yeah. And so I didn't make that purchase, and I'm glad I didn't, because if you've done any research on ayahuasca, the vine has to be like 10 years old before you can harvest it to actually use it for medicine. There's no medicine in it when it's a baby. So I would have bought these plants and mixed them together, and nothing would have happened. Maybe I would have thrown up, but there would have been no psychedelic effect.
I was going to dive deeper into that, so I'm glad you said that. Okay.
Yeah. So we're excited. We go down to South Florida, is where the center is that we went to for our ceremony, our first ceremony. Our first ceremony was intense. So we're in South Florida, middle of summer. It's daytime. I'm in the sun, so it's 90 degrees outside, full sun. We have these plastic frames around us with mosquito nets on them, because when it gets dark, the mosquitoes are going to come out. And it's the most challenging, miserable experience of my life, and one of the best experiences of my life. It's almost impossible to really get without actually having the experience.
Yeah.
I just can't really even relate it to anything. I go into it all confident. Like when I was in high school, I was taking 10 hits of LSD at a time, and I was operating fine. I was my zone, and I was very comfortable in that space. So I didn't think there was a psychedelic that could knock me on my ass. Yeah. And man, was I in for it. So I was throwing up. I was uncomfortable. I was hotter than I'd ever been, but I was bundled up in a sleeping bag in this 90-degree weather with a full sun, and I was freezing cold at the same time. And I don't know how to describe it any way than that. And I was throwing up and uncomfortable. And then, near the end of the the sun sets, and all of a sudden it goes into the evening, and there's more mosquitoes trying to get out of my net than inside my net, because somehow in me rolling around in this chaos, I had lifted up my net on the corners and I was just covered in mosquitoes. And so my first experience, the only thing I got out of it was patience.
Okay.
But there was something else. So I was sitting at the table after the ceremony, and the facilitator's like, "So, what do you think? Would you do that again? What was your experience like?" And I was like, "There's something else here that I have not ever experienced, and I need to come back and do this again. Like, there's something greater that I've missed out on. Like, I was very not a spiritual person. Like, I didn't have any spiritual perspective, or I'm very analytical. But in that moment, I realized there was something bigger going on than I had ever been able to put my finger on before, and I couldn't wait to drink it again because I knew there was something else there, and I needed to figure out what that was."
Do you feel that's amazing? I love this. Do you feel that part of that or big was like in the experience? There was something unique about the experience that you felt like, I guess maybe you felt the Mother Aya energy or something?
Yeah, it's been a decade, so keep that in mind.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what it was. It was just there was something. It was as if there was something looking over my shoulder the whole time I was in that experience. It was like there was something else there. The visuals, the disappearing of Travis, like the Travis no longer being there, and like the dissolving of the ego, and just the experience was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Shannon, on the other hand, she was on the couch over there still going through it. They asked her, and she's like, "Nope, never doing that again."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then we left the retreat center in the morning. I'm somebody who is not a very patient person. I've raced cars, so I'm very into speed and acceleration. And we made a wrong turn on our way home from South Florida, and we ended up on a dirt road for about 2 hours driving on this dirt road on a lowered Mustang. And so we went like 5-10 miles per hour the whole way. No problem. I kept stopping. I was picking up trash along the way. And I had this incredible peace, that this patience that I had never experienced before. And it's just like, wow, this is amazing. This, like, I did one thing and I'm a different person today. Like, what happened? And that was the start of my journey.
So I'm curious. I'm curious. Like, do you think that as the days went on or the weeks went on, did that like big shift really hold, or were there like parts of the old mannerisms that would kind of try to come back gradually?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's often with all of our work that we do is it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? So in that moment, I was 2 steps forward, if not 10 steps forward. And then, yeah, of course, I did slide back a little bit. The patience would come up and things would come up. And
yeah,
but to this day, like, I get stuck in rush hour traffic. I'm calm as a cucumber. I don't care. I'm fine. I'm totally at peace. Where before it was like, let me weave over here, let me squeeze over here. I'm changing this lane, and now I just ride in the one lane I'm in, and like I'll be there when I get there. Like it's no problem. And I would say that that's
because I can relate to that so much, like the driving aggressively and weaving in and out of traffic. And there was a period in time when I was, more mindful of driving, but I would see people doing what I was doing in my adolescence, for instance, and I'd be like, this fucking guy sort of deal. And now when I see someone driving like I used to drive, I'm like, I see you. I know what that is. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
yeah.
Dude, so what got you into LSD originally, do you think?
Huh.
And psychedelics in general?
Yeah, probably cannabis would be the door opener for me. I mean, they say it's a gateway. I don't know if it's a gateway. I never did any harder drugs than that. It was always psychedelics and cannabis. But yeah, like 13, I would say I was curious about it, cannabis, and I smelt it at my house, and I was like, huh. So, Mom, if you have a friend or you have a family member that you're really close to, and you know that they're doing something like smoking cannabis, how do you confront them and talk to them about it? So I proposed to her, well, it's time to go to bed, Travis. And she sent me straight to bed. And 20 minutes later, she's up there saying, okay, son, I smoke cannabis. I'm ashamed to share this with you. This is something that I do. It helps me with anxiety. This is what it helps me with. And it's really not as bad as people say it is. It's just, this is just the way the world is. And you have to be very quiet. I don't want you to tell anybody about this. And like swore me into secrecy. And But it was in that moment that I realized, well, if my mom's doing this, maybe I should try this. And
Yeah.
so fast forward maybe even a few weeks, if maybe not even a week, and I'm at a friend's house, and my friend's got some cannabis, and we got a little 10 foil pipe made from a wrapping around a pen and then bending it up like old school stuff. We didn't even have pipes, and we're smoking that, and I got ripped, and um yeah, and then I started slowly turned into a pothead from there. So it turned into
What else is out there? Kind of mindset. Like
yeah. And then the same friend that I smoked that with, we had a friend that had some LSD and curious, took that and was like,
yeah.
wow, it's amazing. I think a lot of it, like in retrospect, was just being able to let go of the stresses of daily life. Like when you're on LSD, there's nothing else you can be responsible for. It's like I'm doing this and I can't do anything else. Like this is where I'm at right now. And there was some really like peacefulness in that, I think, for me, as far as just not having the responsibilities of the world. I don't worry about school or work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what originally attracted me to it. And I just had this very, very deep connection with that friend from those experiences that I hadn't had with anyone else. And I felt that LSD really broke down these barriers and walls where there was times where we couldn't speak because we were taking such large doses. Like we had no words, but we knew exactly what each other were thinking. And like we were mumbling at each other and knew exactly what was going on. And very, very deep experiences that I just, to this day, I'm very thankful for. And this connection that was created through those experiences.
Yeah. Man, I'm so thankful, just like in my journey for, I mean, it's the same dynamic, right? Just like whenever you meet someone new, maybe you smoke a joint or something, and like you just go into this zone of brotherhood or whatever it is with whoever it is you're talking, or sisterhood, whatever. And it just, man, there's just so many valuable conversations and friendships that have formed from that, But funny, in my work, I spend a lot of time addressing the unconscious shame around cannabis with people, So I took note of how you said, like, even your mom presented it that way to you. So like you're still forming your belief structures, and she goes, it's something I'm ashamed of. So then you're like, fuck, I guess it's fucking that. So I'm curious for you, like, I know that obviously there was a point that you didn't have shame around it, but did you continue a relationship with cannabis? And did you come to a space where you obviously don't have that shame anymore, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I used cannabis more and more as time went on. So started off Fridays just watching movies. We go to the movie theater, smoke a bowl behind the movie theater, go and watch a movie, and that was a start of it. Then we started hanging out a couple days a week, and we would do it a little bit more. And there certainly was aspects of trying to hide it and hiding the smell and judgment at school. It's actually funny that you say this. So this is actually something that I don't normally share or really think about much anymore. But when I went into ninth grade in high school, I'd just started to like smoke on a regular basis in ninth grade, and I remember a couple of the popular kids talking shit about stoners. Oh, potheads are stupid. I made this point to get straight A's in high school, and I smoked weed every single day before high school. There was not a day that I missed before a day of school that I didn't smoke weed before going to school, and I had straight A's in high school. And it was like this, almost like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Like I don't think it's really affecting me the way you think it is, and I'm a smart guy, and I think I can still do really well. And so I don't know if that was the smartest thing from my brain and still developing. I don't know, but that was a point that I made, and I did have straight A's. I graduated with a 4.2 or something like that GPA. I had some AP classes I was taking. Like I graduated at the top of my class, and I was a pothead and smoked weed every day. But I think where the most shame for me with cannabis came was fast forward a few years. I actually went into the Air Force. So I went out of high school, went into the Air Force, quit smoking pot for that. And my father passed away of a heart attack while I was in.
Oh.
And at that moment, I needed support, and I wasn't getting support and didn't know where to get it from. And I found cannabis to be this huge support for me. Like it really helped me get through the pain that I was not able to really express or allow myself to feel in a sober mind. And it really allowed me to get through that time of my life.
Yeah.
In the process, though, I failed a drug test, and in the Air Force and in the military. And I've learned a lot from just almost even the recent years with this, which I'll talk about in a second. But I had a lot of shame because I was a guy that lived off base. I was married, so I was off base. So everybody coming to my house to party every weekend. So I had a lot of friends and connections, and everything was great. They didn't know I smoked. It was kind of like a hidden thing that I was doing after my dad had passed. And I failed that drug test, and everybody stopped talking to me. I literally became the black sheep, and I had all this disconnect from all these people that I was working with, and they didn't interact with me anymore. And it crushed me. And I had already had this shame of failing this test and this pain for my dad dying, and then I lost all my friends on top of it. And so there was this huge shame of like, oh my God, I did this thing, and now nobody even wants to talk to me. Like, this must be a really bad thing that I did. Like, I didn't realize how bad it was until that moment.
And even I'm not to interrupt, I know you're kind of thinking that, but like your nervous system is processing it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, no matter what you're thinking, like your body's like, fuck, we did bad shit, you know?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And I struggled with it at that point of like trying to get off of it, and then like, oh, I don't know. And then got out of the military, found a sales career, and I could smoke weed, and it was great. And so I was smoking pot, and it gave me the peace that I needed. And I do say that in some, like, I feel like it's a beautiful medicine, and it also in some ways put a wall up to how much I could feel. So like with ayahuasca, I had an experience on, I think, my 5th ceremony with ayahuasca. I went into that death of my dad and really dealt with it. It was 10 years after he had died by this time. And I got completion of it. And the entire experience, the entire 4 or 5 hours was me crying. I was just crying, sobbing, snot pouring out. Like I was just soaking wet mess and just sobbing. And there was a point in which I was no longer grieving, and I became my dad. And my dad was a Vietnam vet, and he was in charge of a group of guys that went out there, and they got ambushed, and everybody died but him and one other guy he pulled out of there. My dad had 5 bullet holes in his body, all from friendly fire. You know, like the scars on his body. Like he was messed up from the military.
Yeah.
And he never dealt with it. And I dealt with it in that ceremony. He was gone, and I finally got to give him peace through my experience of becoming him in ceremony and crying the tears that he was never able to shed.
Dude. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good shit. So, wow. I mean, there's so much. Wow, that's amazing, right? My analytical thought wants to go to, I think it's possible to achieve that with no plant medicine whatsoever. I think it's possible over time, right? Someone's got they got to do the work, you know, and then maybe when they're 80, they get it, you know. But I also feel that someone can achieve that point depending on, you know, whatever, with cannabis being a helper to kind of transform their mind in this direction. And they'll eventually get there, probably sooner than the person who's doing nothing.
Yeah.
But then you utilize such a beautiful plant like ayahuasca, and you're you know, obviously probably having a good sitter, right, is important. I know whoever's leading it. And you can really get that. And I know that there's other things too, right? Like you can do it with psilocybin, and you know, there's all sorts of stuff out there. But man, there's something about that ayahuasca. There's something about that motherfucker. I don't mean no disrespect. There's something about that one right there. You know? That's powerful. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love hearing that, you know. And I just want to touch on that real quick because it's such a common thing that, you know, as men, we have been conditioned not to feel our feelings and tend to be more macho and be the man and all that stuff. I was listening to a podcast about this stuff, and the guy who's come a long way with it now, and I'm drawing a blank on what the name of this dude right now, but the point is, he was talking about when he first started doing his, like, trying to go within and feel emotions and stuff like that, that like no matter what he did, he was not able to like really feel feelings or have tears and whatnot. And so at some point he decided to start faking it. He started going out to like nature and pretending to cry and pretending, and he made it a ritual. And I don't know, once a week or whatever it was. And then at some point, because he continued to act like it, he actually started fucking crying. And it was the most liberating experiences he's ever had, right? So, you know, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, I guess.
Yeah. We have mentors in Brazil that talk about the straight path. Ayahuasca is a straight path. If you think of it like our growth as humans, we're always trying to climb a mountain, right? And we might go up the mountain a little bit, and then just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? We'd slide back down the mountain, do the easy path, go down a path a little bit, and go up and down and curve. And you know, when you're hiking up a mountain, you might take that long route because it cuts that uphill climb. Ayahuasca is like going straight up the hill. It's like going straight up. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. It is hard work, but man, you move faster through things.
Yeah. it like there's something to be said for like working with limiting beliefs that show up in our daily life and the massive benefit in that. But then the deeper shit, that stored stuff that's down in there, man, there's and yeah, so many ways to do it. So I like that you said not for everyone, and I know that Shannon and I talked about this a little bit too. But what advice would you give to someone who might be listening and they're in a space where it's like, well, I've tried all this and stuff and whatever, and they're just like, maybe this is it. Like, is there any prerequisites that need to be checked off, that are worth noting?
I think it's important to be still and really ask your heart if it's something for you. I think that's the biggest thing. So I could come up with all kinds of other things, but over my experience with ayahuasca and having people come here, I can't tell you how many people have come here that have never touched a psychedelic before, never smoked cannabis before, going straight to ayahuasca. And they have incredible experiences. Their life's completely transformed. So I would say that you don't even need the stepping stones of cannabis or mushrooms, or like some people are like, oh, I want to do mushrooms first. I want to do that. But the reality is I've had more people have ego deaths on mushrooms than I have on ayahuasca. More people saying, oh my God, I think I'm dying. I need help. I can't breathe. I've had people, including myself, had that experience more with mushrooms than ayahuasca ever has had for somebody.
Well, this brings up a question for me.
Yeah.
So in the category of ayahuasca, if it's not something reminiscent or similar to an ego death, what is it that you think is most challenging for people to navigate?
I think it just shows up differently, right? So there's the ego death where you feel like you're dying. And then there's different aspects of an ego death where it feels like there's aspects of you dying, but it doesn't feel like your body is actually dying in the moment. Where I think in the situation that I see is people on mushrooms sometimes feel like they can't breathe. There's this heaviness on the chest and it makes it like my breath feels weird and it starts to get into their head and they start going down that rabbit hole. You don't have that experience with ayahuasca. You always feel like you can take a deep breath. Like you don't have that heaviness on your chest. And so I think from that standpoint, that's the difference, I would say. Now, I would say that there's definitely ego deaths that happen with ayahuasca where you feel like you're buried in a box and maybe you're in a tomb, or like people have shared experiences where they feel like they're being buried alive inside of a casket, and it's scary. But they're also conscious and aware enough inside of there and not having any breathing issues where they're not as scared as they are with mushrooms and deep doses with mushrooms.
Interesting. Okay. I want to poke a little bit deeper here with just my thought with the psilocybin one, because I see this in cannabis. If someone is an anxious person and there's a bunch of like already unaddressed rampant anxiety in their life, then cannabis can be a not fun ride for that individual, or it can help, but it can oftentimes be a not fun ride for the person. I think with psilocybin, I would think the same thing.
Yeah.
So, what are you thought, or what are you thought? What are your thoughts on that? Also, and then also back to ayahuasca, someone like you, I'm sure you take note, right? The more aware you are, the more you can see, so you'll see someone come up that you might think this person's got some shit going on, anxiety, and I can tell, right, going into an ayahuasca versus someone who comes in and you can see, all right, yeah, they seem like they're not riddled with anxiety. Do you see a difference there too?
Yeah, I think it is very individual. It depends on the person for sure. Like some people, they're dealing with anxiety. That's what they're coming to ceremony for. But what's interesting is that, which we could talk about the microdose tincture, I know a little bit later, but the one of the components of ayahuasca actually reduces anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike mushrooms, which doesn't can have that benefit, like people microdose for it and stuff, but the MAOI and ayahuasca is like magic at anxiety. Like I can't tell you how many times people come here and they're nervous getting ready to drink. They usually, the second time you drink is actually more scary than the first time because you know what to expect, but you get all nervous. It's all built up in your head. And the second you drink that cup, before it even kicks in, the nervousness actually all resides. You become calm. The anxiety kind of drops before the experience actually kicks in, which is really kind of cool. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of doing, no, that's good stuff. I was doing it both, or inquiring both your perspective on psilocybin, because I know sometimes you guys have those retreats as well. Individuals who you might perceive just with your awareness to be someone who's more anxious versus an average individual who is not, going to sit with psilocybin and then going. But you kind of answered that with ayahuasca because no matter what, when they go into it, the effects of it kind of take it away. Well, how about for psilocybin? Do you think that there's any difference there?
Uh, I see more of the anxiousness with people with the mushrooms. Same with the ego death. Like I don't think it calms the anxiousness quite like ayahuasca does. Like
It might amplify it.
it
So
might amplify it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is his own medicine, right? That's not a bad thing. I think when you go into those spaces, sometimes having those experiences and pains and those things we feel being amplified are sometimes what we need so that we are forced to dive into them and look at them deeper. So I don't know if that's a bad thing that it's that way, but I definitely would say that I don't see the same anxiety suppressingness that I see with ayahuasca with mushrooms or cannabis. I think cannabis suppresses anxiety pretty good.
yeah,
Mushrooms.
Depends on the strain, depends on the person, and all that stuff.
100%. Yeah.
So with ayahuasca, in your experience, like seeing people who might be someone who's riddled with anxiety, do you think, and kind of like tying back to your experience, you had once you had it, you're like all this presence and everything, but obviously as life goes on, it creeps back. Do you think that, outside of the experience helping with the anxiety, that individuals see a massive decrease, or do they come back to get more and they're kind of trying to work out their anxiety by sitting with Aya?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody, but I would say like we could point to some of the studies they've done with mushrooms. They haven't done enough studies with ayahuasca, but there's some studies that show like 90% reduction in anxiety 6 months later, 3 months later, like from one large dose. So I think it definitely does, but there's also some people that are just, they put themselves in an environment that triggers that anxiety, that maybe it's a relationship they have, a spouse, a certain way that they talk to them, that triggers this thing from a childhood. And if they don't address the underlying thing that's causing the anxiety, it'll come back. Like it can, sometimes people come here and they're like, okay, I'm gonna do ayahuasca one time, it's gonna fix me, I'm gonna be all better, we're good to go. And I don't want to tell people that's not the way it is. I let them figure out for themselves mostly, but it's just not the reality. Like you can get some big changes and some big transformations, but more often than not, somebody that's like ready to just get this stuff over with and really ready to do the work, they start coming regularly. They start coming every 3 months or 6 months until they finally put the rest, the things that are underneath that are causing these issues, and then it doesn't come back. But it's really kind of like got to get it to that root, got to pull that root out, or you're just going to have the same kind of challenges.
So that brings up a question. So like with people that come to your ayahuasca retreats, does it depend on the case? Do you say like, hey, if you really want to, maximize this, if we work together on these deeper aspects outside of the retreat, then you're going to have, and then is it case by case, or do you do that with pretty much all the people, or what?
Yeah, so when somebody decides they want to come sit with us and they put in they say, okay, this is the date that I want to come to. This is the donation. Here's a donation. Hold my spot. We send them out a prep guide. It's got a very thorough guide that they can read, and then there's also a video that's actually me and Shannon that's recorded. That's about an hour and a half long, and it talks everything from about like what you may experience, what's going to feel like in your body, what's normal, what's not normal, how are you going to feel if you see 1,000-pound gorilla breathing down on you, you embrace that gorilla. Don't run from the gorilla. The resistance that you have creates more challenge. The more you resist it, the harder it's going to get. The more you can soften and allow yourself to really face these challenging, scary moments, that's where the beauty is, and it keeps the challenge from just going over the top of like resistance. When I see somebody that can't sit still in ceremony, they're up, they're down, they're standing up, they're sitting down, they're laying down, they're pacing back and forth. They're like a dog in a cage trying to escape the experience. They're not going to get as much out of it. It's really to be able to just sit in that discomfort and sit in that experience is where that healing is, and finding that deep thing inside of yourself. Yeah. So I say it's a lot in the coaching, and then to take that a step further. So we have our 1 day, 2 day retreat. Somebody can come for 1 day, try it out. But our magic is a 3 day. It's 3 ayahuasca ceremonies back to back. We also have a 7 day, which is even like the 3 day on steroids. But that 3 days, 3 ceremonies back to back. It's all in silence for all 3 days. So they're not talking to anybody else. They don't have their phone. They don't have a book. They're just sitting with themselves for 3 days. It's like one big ceremony that lasts 3 days. It's not just the medicine. It's the silence. It's the coaching in between. So we spend about a half hour with each person, sometimes a little more, a little less, depending on what they need to actually like, okay, this is what you saw. This is what she's probably trying to show you. We also do some dream interpretation. Okay, this is the dream that you have, because she tends to amplify your dreams as well. And then we can kind of like pick apart things that they're experiencing to help. Okay, why don't you ask this question tomorrow? Why don't you ask this? And then we're able to see like, okay, yeah, this is the surface of that, but what's underneath that? And have the people continue to dive deeper into that. Okay, well, what am I responsible for? What are you responsible for? Is there more? Is there more? Like, to continue asking these questions to go deeper and deeper and deeper to get the most out of the experience. So there's a lot of coaching involved and a lot of support and handholding that goes into helping people reach these deep spaces.
Yeah.
I think what you were mentioning with like cannabis, I think if someone would have given me a guided cannabis experience and had me go into that with my dad, I think I could have probably, released a lot of that. I just didn't know any better. Where ayahuasca and the people that were facilitating for us and the style that we facilitate helped me taught me how to use the medicine in the best way to go that deep, to be able to get that healing that I needed.
Yeah. I think that, it happened exactly as it was supposed to, right? But to double back on that, like if you didn't do that and you did find that kind of guidance or whatever, it may have been 40 years down the road that you reached that, because it's like a whole nother realm. And I haven't experienced ayahuasca yet, but I know now where I'm going whenever I'm ready. Like, I know it deep in my soul, right? But I just think that with from learning about it and listening and hearing and talking to you guys and et cetera, I have respect for it. Without even, I know there's some stuff there, and I don't know if you ever get this, and I think I talked to Shannon about it, but like for me, going to psilocybin again, I haven't done that since I was like mid-20s, and I wasn't, really sitting with it. For me, there's been this part of me that's like, well, let's go the route without that. Let's allow, the capabilities of cannabis to help us increase our neuroplasticity and dive deeper just in our day-to-day life. And let's just go that way until we get to a space where we're like, okay, I think I'm ready for the next thing. And there's probably part of me, right, the inner child, who's like, I want to get to a certain space so I lessen the amount of the crazy shit that people experience. They go to things, right? So I'm gonna get to, and then we're gonna really see some shit. Who knows?
Yeah. It's everybody's on their own time frame, right? And then it's funny, like everybody tries to figure it out. I can't tell you how many times people have been here for like 3 times and they're like, oh, ayahuasca's like this and it's gonna do this and it's gonna be like this for me. And it's like, you don't know. Yeah. Ayahuasca is not one of those ones you can just be like, oh, I'm gonna take 2 grams and it's gonna feel like this. Like, psilocybin is relatively predictable and how you're gonna feel, how long it's gonna last, all these stuff. Sometimes you take ayahuasca, you're done in 2.5 hours, you're back to normal. Other times it's 15 hours later and you're just now coming back to reality and grounding. So
yeah,
it's not like other medicines, but I think for me that's what I needed, because I'm a hard-headed person and I want to have it all figured out, super analytical. I think I have it all figured out, and ayahuasca just picks me up and twists me around and helps me see it another way. And her way about her is what I need.
Yeah. And that's what seems to come through with anybody that speaks about their experience with it. So there's one anecdotal story that pops to mind around, I am 98% it was DMT or ayahuasca, but the idea that multiple individuals having an experience with either ayahuasca or DMT could actually have the same, I don't want to call it trip, but the experience on the other side, and then come back and be like when they come back to and be like, holy fuck, and they realize they were like actually in a collective experience that they all remember. Have you ever seen or heard anything like that?
Yeah, it's really common for people that are, especially in our extended retreats, like the 3 days, where people are all dealing with the same stuff. It's like all daddy issues. Everybody will be dealing with daddy issues. They have no idea because they're not talking to each other. They're all in silence, but they all will be dealing with daddy issues. They all will be dealing with sexual things. Like it's crazy how often it is. It's almost always like that. Almost every 3 day, there's a theme of the 3 day, and they're all in the same. They don't necessarily all interact with each other in some kind of spiritual way, as much as like they're all working on the same areas. The same areas are all what's coming up, and then it's what's really wild is and cool is like there'll be like somebody that's like, I trusted you, Dad, or like somebody will just all of a sudden scream something like that, and all of a sudden it's like every other person in the circle starts crying because they were having the same thought, and all of a sudden it just creates this like, holy crap, you too! Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Like,
I could see how that might be like contagious, that like that kind of moment.
yeah.
So the way that I understood it, this particular, and maybe it's not the same kind of thing, it was like, say 5 people are doing it and they all experience some tiger, and they're all in this other dimension, and the tiger does certain shit, and they come back and they're all like saying the same thing. They all like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen it, but it's not as common as just like a shared thing that they're working on. I
Yeah.
have definitely seen people like have shared experiences with like visuals, or I saw this or I saw that, or people even like sometimes know what the other person's dealing with, even though there was no conversation about it. Like, oh my gosh, I got the sense that they were molested. It's like that's what they're dealing with, but I don't say that. It's all very confidential, but it's definitely wild. I think I hear that like what you're describing probably more so when people smoke DMT. Like you hear people talking about smoking DMT
Okay, that might have
and
been where I heard it from.
feeling like the machine elves. The machine elves are really popular with smoking DMT,
That might have been where it came from.
and I can say for myself, I've smoked DMT and I've never seen the machine elves. So I don't know
Okay.
if it's just me or what, but it definitely seems to be a consistent thing that people see these machine elves, these otherworldly people or creatures that are in some
Yeah.
other. It's like a, I often think about like if aliens were here and they weren't carbon based, would we be able to even recognize them or see them, or would they be walking around right next to us and us not even be able to see them because they're not built out of the same molecules as us? Like that could be the same kind of thing, that we're just opening ourselves up to see something that's not normally available to us.
Well, whole another realm of thought, but this brings in the idea of like cryptids to me, whether it's, which I just recently learned in the last couple of years, whether it's Bigfoot or Skinwalker or whatever, the fact that or the idea that they have the ability to like morph into different dimensions and shit.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-oh, I think you froze. I hope that's not me. Looks like you went into another dimension. I didn't go anywhere, hoping that the record wouldn't get lost. I was like, "Oh no, are we gonna get lost? We're gonna lose that."
Thank you for that. And yeah, apparently it has been recording the whole time, so we should be good.
Yeah.
Does there appear to be a lag or no?
It seems to be good. You're a little blocky. You're not as quite as good visually, but it
Yeah,
works.
because he's in the hotspot. So we'll kind of bring it to the fold, I guess, here. But what I was talking about was yeah. Have you ever heard of that? The idea of cryptids and stuff.
I have, yeah. It's interesting though, like to think about like that. That's why we don't see the swamp yeti and all that stuff, that they're like coming in and out of our reality in some kind of weird way. It's definitely an interesting
Who
theory and
knows?
thoughts, and yeah, and I'm like somebody who's very analytical and also very open to whatever, because I've seen some crazy stuff. I know
Yeah,
Shannon
yeah.
shared on the last podcast I was listening to this morning. She shared about the military veteran that we had here and how he was dealing with
Yeah.
like the trauma of death and killing someone, and he basically was an Army Ranger, point person leading into houses, had got shot multiple times, had killed multiple people, was dealing with a lot of PTSD from that. And in a ceremony, he was able to get forgiveness from this first kill, which was a 6-year-old little girl. And she came to him in ceremony, forgave him. And one of the things that I wanted to add that I wish she would have put in the podcast is this wild thing is that after his ceremony, he had a ring around his nest where he was set up. The grass had died. It's still dead up there.
Oh,
Just a ring around where his nest was. It's been a month and that ring
wow.
is still there. I asked him, he didn't
That's
spray
crazy.
anything. There was nothing there. Like I can't figure it out analytically. It was just like a lot of death had come off of him and a lot of forgiveness, and it literally killed the grass around his circle. Just wild.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez, man. Well, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's something like we only see a super, super small fraction of what actually exists. Like scientifically, they say that
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
Well, so far the internet is holding off on the hotspots or doing okay on the hotspots. So I would like to just ask you, are there like requirements or whatever to be able to like grow and cultivate ayahuasca for the ceremonies? You know, like I've heard that you need to be like a church or something like that. It was like, I don't know.
Well, it's actually legal to grow ayahuasca. It's legal to grow chacruna. It's not illegal until you start brewing it and making the medicine. Once you start making it, then you're making a DMT medicine, which is a Schedule 1. So how we get protection and how we're able to do what we do here is that we are a church. We're a 501c3 church. We're recognized by the county. They've given us approval. Our neighbors know what we do. Like we're actually pretty safe where we are based on the freedom of religion. Really, we're in a Republican area, and it's actually been great for us because it helps. The freedom of religion is very strong here, which has been a great tool for us to be able to do what we're doing and be able to serve people.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing. I thought that there was something to that you needed to be like ordained or whatever the phrase is as a church or whatever. So
Yeah.
All I know is that like when I met you guys, you know, that event was cool, but there were only a couple, you know, what do you call them, kiosks or whatever that I went by where I just felt like a sense of groundedness, you know, and just like being seen, like both you guys saw me, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. And so I'm so thankful that I got the opportunity to meet you guys. And I'd probably like to have you guys back on my podcast at some point. And at some point I'd like to come out there and see you guys and hang out too, even if I don't do the ayahuasca on that day.
Yeah. Maybe plan a visit out and we'll do a podcast here at the farm in person.
There you go. That would be cool. Like all three of us.
Yeah, why not?
That would be really cool. Fuck yeah. Dude, hell yeah. We'll make that happen. If nothing else in the new year. It may not be right, but let's do that. I would love to do that. I think that would be fucking epic. Good. Sure. And maybe I'll end up having had done the ceremony by then. So okay, so will you provide your breakdown of the Aya microdose tincture?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, so hopefully I'm not breaking up for the recording. But Ayadose is a microdose tincture that is just the ayahuasca vine, so it doesn't have any DMT in it. So it doesn't have chacruna, which is like one of the key plants to make the full brew with ayahuasca. The ayahuasca vine is a natural MAOI, which is basically like a natural antidepressant. It makes you feel calm, relaxed, chill. You can take it every day. You don't build a tolerance to it, like if you try to microdose the psilocybin, and you won't feel any of that like anxious, nervous jitters that you can sometimes feel when mushrooms are coming on when you try to microdose mushrooms if you took a little too much. So you can go to work, you can drive, no problem with any of that. It's also 100% legal in all 50 states because it doesn't have that DMT component. So you can travel with it. We travel with it every time we go on a plane. We got it with us. We've never been stopped, never been bothered with it at all. And we make it all ourselves. We harvest the vine. We do the entire process ourselves here at the farm. And it's a wonderful product. We've had everything from people getting off of anti-anxiety medications, off of antidepressants. A lot of people use it to actually come to ceremony if they're on something. We'll recommend they start with that and they slowly wean themselves off of an antidepressant and come on with ayahuasca, the microdose. It's compatible with our ceremonies as well, so you don't have to come off of it right before ceremony like you would with antidepressant. Right. Yeah, like one of my favorite stories is actually when we've been producing it for about 5 or 6 years actually, but we never really advertised it or promoted it publicly. We just kind of had it on our website and people would occasionally find it. We went to the Psychedelic Science Conference last year in Denver, and we gave away samples. So there was 12,000 people there, and we were just giving away samples, kind of like the Cannadelica event that we were at, except it was much larger. Huge event. It was crazy large. It was actually the largest event they've ever had at the Denver Conference Center. Was the psychedelic gathering, which was super cool. It's the largest psychedelic gathering that's ever happened. That's awesome. So super cool, yeah. And the first day there was a lady that took our sample, bought a bottle. 3 days later, she comes to us in tears right before the event closes, and it's like, I just need to tell you, I've been on Xanax for the last 10 years, and I've needed to take it every single day, and I haven't taken a Xanax in 3 days because of this microdose tincture. And she was in tears. We were in tears. We were hugging. It was just amazing. You know, it's really simple, really, really magical. And we're really excited to get it out there and get it in people's hands because it really helps a lot of people.
Hell yeah, dude. That's amazing. Well, you and I both have histories of analytical thought. I know that both of us have a little bit of thought right now of I hope this part comes out okay. And so, you know, and it's just the nature of what it is, right? And I'm sure that it'll be fine, but it's almost like the universe is saying, all right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. And maybe that means that we are going to get to have another, even if not that, just another not in person, another time you and I can hang out and dive deeper, because I feel like there's so many places that we can go, you know. I'm going to put a link below, both to, like I did for the other podcast, for the Great Spirit Healing Farm for anybody interested in retreats, and then also a link for the Aya microdose tincture with a code that you've been so gracious to offer to myself as well as anyone that follows, anybody in the audience. You know, for what do you say, 15%, right? 15% off.
Yeah. Yep.
That's amazing. With code STILLMIND10. Or no,
10% off. That's what it is. 10% off. I think it is still mine. 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did. It'll be down in the notes.
either way, it'll be in the notes, and you get a little price break. So, you know.
Right.
Cool, man. Are you cool to hang out for just 2 more seconds after we stop the recording? Okay.
Yeah, awesome. No problem.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, thank you so much for hanging out again and you know, sharing space today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah, brother. All right. Well, for everybody else, check out the notes and check out the other podcast if you haven't checked out that. And we'll see you on the next time.